Miller.
On this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host Miss Leah Withrow, the head groundskeeper of the Reno Aces, the AAA affiliate of the Arizona Diamondbacks. We are so beyond grateful to have met Miss Withrow with everything that she has going on right now. She's currently in the reconstruction of her 12-year-old field. She is part of a new group of minor league baseball that is charged with the Major League Baseball with the transition over this past year with COVID. She has seen through so many different levels of her reconstruction to ensure that all specs are met with the standard of Major League Baseball. So she's such an inspiration to all of our students. She is the only female head groundskeeper in AAA baseball and is currently only one of 4 female head groundskeeper in all of baseball, minor league baseball and Major League Baseball. And she does such a fantastic job. Only at the age of 25, she has gone to one of the highest positions you can get when it comes to the baseball world. And it was great to hear about her journey through the industry, how she found her passion, and really, it's really cool to see how just a email to the Arizona Diamondbacks and being put in contact with the head groundskeeper through the actual website of the Diamondbacks, she was able to shadow for 2 days and see what it was like to be a groundskeeper at the Major League level. And it sort of was love at first sight, as she said, and it was just, it's great to see, especially with our students and with being able to talk to people like her and have that experience and see it through her eyes. It's just such a great opportunity, and that's why we do these. So we can't thank you enough. We hope that the rest of the renovation goes well, and next week laying down the sod, we hope that bluegrass shines for you. She has very lofty goals, and we know that she's going to do a fantastic job and get to those goals very soon. So again, we can't thank you enough, Leah, and take care. We hope 2021 is a great year for the Aces and your grounds crew. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 24th episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller, with your co-host, Jack O'Leary. Today, we have a extremely exciting guest, Miss Leah Withrow, the head groundskeeper of the Reno Aces. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm good now.
So you were just talking about it, and we actually, over email, you were talking about how you were just starting your renovation. Which is such a large scale project, especially for a minor league stadium and everything. So how has that been going for you? You mentioned dumpster fire a little bit ago. So how is that all going, and where are you hoping to go with the rest of this week?
So we are in, what are we in? Week 3. It's start of week 3 for renovation stuff. It's a giant sandbox right now. We spent the first week rephrase mowed all the turf, the grass out. Then we piled the top 4 inches of organic matter that we wanted to get rid of and piled that all up. Got that donated to some golf courses around the area, so I didn't have to pay a dump fee for those because it was about 2,000 tons of organic matter and sand built up over 12 years. The stadium has never been redone before, has never had new infield dirt, new grass, besides a few sodding quick jobs. So everything is the original 12 years, 2009 opening day stuff. So there's a lot of organic built up. So we got rid of those top 4 inches. I trucked that out to local golf courses to use as filler, which worked out great. And then we actually just yesterday finished hauling out the old infield dirt. That was also donated to the local high schools. So 5 area high schools got all of our old infield dirt so that they can play, hopefully, this season on some good infield. And then basically been trucking in new sand. We got 2,000 tons of brand new sand that had to be tilled into the bottom floor. So our root zone, the way our field was built, is on 6 inches of gravel for drainage purposes. Then it's fabric layer. And then we have 10 inches of sand and then turf. We took those top 4 inches out, probably closer to 5 inches, cleared that out, got the new sand, and now we're starting to till in that new sand to that bottom 5 inches, just so that we kind of get an even consistency on the new root zone, because the new sand is a lot more coarse to allow for better drainage than the old sand was. The old sand was a more silty, fine, poor draining soil. So we're trying to incorporate that to make it maybe a little bit better on the watering side of it. And yeah, it's kind of been crazy because of MLB's new standards, because MLB now owns minor leagues. We have to make some adjustments to the original plans to be within the MLB specs and standards. So that was a hiccup we weren't expecting
Very nice
deal
of
with.
them. Very nice of them to do that last minute.
Yeah, so we basically, now that MLB has us, we have to submit any changes to the field to them. So we made out this nice plan. I mean, we submitted everything that our contractor basically gave to us is what we're doing, and MLB signed off, said this is awesome, looks great. Then we got to the grading issues that we weren't expecting to have to, we thought there'd be a little bit more give in the grading specs, but there wasn't. So we ended up having to tear out pretty much everything under our infield dirt and regrade the gravel underneath, which was a couple extra days of stuff, and having to redo the mound we weren't originally planning on doing.
Not fun. Not fun stuff.
So that's actually getting bulldozed right now. No more mound. And yeah, it's just been crazy, busy. I've never gotten more phone calls in my life.
You just want to check the phone on the stadium.
Yeah. I've had more phone calls in the last 3 weeks than I think I did all of 2020.
So I'm sort of with you, because with the virtual setting we've been in, I've gotten more emails than I've ever gotten, and it's been constant every day. So it's like 70 emails. It's like, oh, here we go. So you were also talking about how you've been making some major decisions this week, and over the whole process, I'm sure you've been making a lot of decisions. Can you sort of explain the different aspects that you're monitoring specifically? Again, you were talking about they changed the specs on you. As the head groundskeeper working with the contractor, can you sort of explain how you're sort of double checking what they're doing in a sense, and what is it that you're prioritizing when you're monitoring their field construction?
So the whole point of my job, or the first point of my job in a renovation, was to hire the right people. That's, if I did my job right, then I hired the right people and I don't have to worry too much about it. And I think I did. I hired some top-notch guys. We have Dura Edge Infield going in, and Cam Toon, who is the best in the business, hands down, with infield grading and project managing. He's a 10 out of 10. And then our sod farm guy, Nate, he's been doing all of the demo, anything with grass and sand he's been doing, and he's been 10 out of 10 also. So like, I'll go out just to go get some fresh air and some sunshine from my cellar that is my office down here under the stadium and check things out. But I mean, I'm the one approving the base cutouts, how long I want the base pass, the diameter of home plate, the diameter of the mound. I'm approving and making sure we're within spec for grading. And then the new MLB standards, making sure we're kosher with them. And then we've been doing some soil testing as we till in that new sand to make sure we're getting the inches per hour drainage that we want, and making sure that when we go to do our pre-plant fertilizer, that we have proper nutrient recommendation based on what's going in right now. So I've been monitoring all of the testing and making sure the results are what we were planning on doing and working with the contractors. So, I mean, I've been a hands-off except for saying yes or no or move it this way or that way for a lot of the project, which has been really nice because that means I did what I was supposed to do, which was hire the right people. And now second part of my job is once they leave, making sure I don't completely kill the field in the first year.
I have a question.
Okay.
What is the goal of the field renovation from what the field was to what is done to expect to better the field?
So, like I said, this field's 12 years old. It was built in 2009 and hasn't had any improvements. We did get a new warning track about 3 years ago, which was like a godsend because our old warning track was not super great. So basically my plan was when we started talking renovation was to look at our major issues, which was drainage. We did a undisturbed core sample, which means we basically took a golf course cup cutter, cut all the way down to that fabric level, so 10 inches. I don't know where my hands are in the camera. And we sent it to a lab where the lab took that undisturbed sample. It was in a soda pop bottle, and they flushed water into it to see how it drained. They took chemical analysis of everything, whatnot. Well, in the two samples we took one from center field and one from right field. The center field one drained at 0.69 inches an hour, which if you know what a field should drain at, it should drain at close. Ideally, you drain at 15 inches an hour. So 0.69 was well below that. Our right field sample drained at 0.0 inches an hour, which meant we were at standing water in right field consistently, which was super frustrating because I wasn't overwatering. It felt like I was, but I needed to get some of the hot spots watered, but I couldn't water efficiently and properly in right field because it would just sit there and be soggy. So every time I tried to mow, I would rut. And it was just an issue. And so that was priority number one in this field renovation, was improving drainage, because over time, over 12 years of not catching clippings all the time, fertilizer not breaking down as fast as you want to, leaves and organic buildup in that top 4 inches, that black layer just got out of control. And it was to the point where you could pull all the cores you wanted, air fine once a month, and it just wasn't gonna do much. So we needed to find a good sand to mix into the old sand, a good compatible match that didn't clog up any pore space or concrete or seal off our root zone. Did a good job at that. And then we had a huge POA problem. Our POA annua had pretty much taken over all of our Kentucky bluegrass. And there was a lot of pigment and paint to make that lime green POA look all right. And last year's soccer season, having them there more than normal showed that the POA, as you know, roots super shallow. The POA will sit in that 2 to 3 inch root zone and just sit there and shear off like it's no one's business. And so soccer, playing 2 times a week and practicing 2 times a week, it was just divot after divot after divot, and we couldn't keep up with it. And the soccer team was mad, as they had a right to be, that every time they took a step, it was going to rip out from under them. So that kind of also sold our front office on, we need to probably get some fresh grass in here and resurface this thing to get better stability and a safer playing surface for baseball and soccer.
So you had mentioned it before, and I actually read an article on it. And we actually have had Luke Yoder on this podcast to talk to the kids. With the products like Dura Edge and with the new, again, you're working and tilling in the lower level with the higher level of the soil profile. you're working with a bunch of different contractors. How do you create that relationship? You mentioned you found them. You had to be the one to find the right one. How do you create that relationship once they're in-house and they're working and sort of in your space and having that expectation, but still having a good working relationship with those guys?
So Luke approached me in July when I started. Kind of our front office had been noticing the issues the field was having with water and the POA. So we started discussing a field renovation coming in the fall. And I was like, we're about a few months out. That's a little short. We should start looking at spring. Started talking with Luke, just spitballing. And my old boss, Joe Hill, who I took over for, had kind of started in the process of finding people. So I was just going based on his recommendations, because if he signed off on them, then I was totally fine with having them here as well. What ended up being super nice we basically went with, the company is called Foremost. I don't know if Luke talked about it while he was on the podcast here, but they created a consulting and field renovation side business under the DurEdge umbrella.
I think that he focuses on, correct?
So he basically, DurEdge created this new, instead of just doing infield, they wanted to do the whole field. And they wanted a field renovation company that was built by groundskeepers, because as we know and have seen, a lot of stadiums are built by general contractors, and they're like, well, I can build a skyscraper. Building a stadium would be the same thing. And you're like, no, it's freaking not. It is not the same thing at all. And a lot of groundskeepers get screwed because you have a general contractor who doesn't have turf managing experience, and you kind of suffer on that end of it. So Luke and Foremost came in with groundskeepers, Paul Zwaska, who was with the Orioles for forever, Luke, who was with the Padres for forever, Greg Elliott, the San Francisco Giants guy. I mean, they've got some good names in that company, and I trusted them. I trust Luke he's Luke Yoder. He knows
yeah, exactly
more than I will ever know in a lifetime. And so I wanted to work with Luke, and it worked out super well that I was going to use DurEdge anyway. That's pretty much the MLB standard. So getting a DurEdge infield was priority. And so getting DurEdge in here, having Foremost kind of lead the pack, then it was just trying to find that sod company, which we found one from Washington, Central Eastern Washington. They supply the sod for the Seahawks and the Mariners. They do a ton of colleges up in that area. They do Gonzaga and UW, and I mean they do every golf course, top of the line to your basic county-owned golf course. They are great. And what was super nice is their climate is identical to us, almost identical. So I knew that was going to be a good fit, and it worked that sod farm guy had worked with the DurEdge guy on multiple other projects along the West Coast, and they were good friends and buddies. And so it kind of just, all the pieces kind of started to fit together, and it was an easy decision for me. I was like, I want Luke Yoder leading the pack. I want him to be advising and overseeing most of this project, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And so I needed Luke Yoder to help kind of guide me in certain directions. And then I got Cam, who's our DurEdge guy, and Nate, our sod guy. And they just kind of, it's been a phenomenal crew. We've had almost no issues except for hiccups underneath the field as we dig underneath and find fun discoveries of the old build and shortcuts that they took in the original build. But besides that, we've got a great crew here, great guys. And Luke helping the whole process along was huge.
Just pull up something that's not supposed to be there. That's always fun to see.
Oh yeah, we found a lot of it is interesting to see the shallow areas when they pop up, because you're like, dang, I always had a hot spot there. Now I know why. And you don't seem crazy, or you're like, that always puddled right there. That's weird. And he's like, yeah, it was a really low spot. And I'm like, okay, I'm not losing my marbles. I'm not overwatering, and it's not me. It's actually just the way the field was built. And now that we go through and correct those things, it feels good.
It's like that I knew it moment, like there's something wrong here. You mentioned Joe. I actually used to work with Joe in New York with the Mets, and I was going to ask you about it because I had talked to him a few times once he got out there when he left, because I thought he was crazy for this specific thing, not meaning like leaving MLB, but joining the group of people who run an MLS. Is it MLS or just a soccer?
It's basically AAA soccer. It's
okay.
the USL.
Okay, so similar to an MLS, running again soccer, baseball, same timeline, back and forth. I was like, Joe, I don't know how you do this. What is that experience like for you? I mean, I know I would lose my mind. I'll help and I'll try my best, but at the same time, I would lose my mind if I do it like 6 times in a season. You know what I mean? What was your experience with all of that?
So I interned under Joe that inaugural year of soccer. So that first year we had soccer, I was an intern, and it sucked. I'm gonna be honest. When you have to flip the field 12 times, lay sod and pull up sod 12 times, by like time 5, you just want to like go bury yourself under the pile you just dug up and call it a day, because
you just say, soccer guys, you can run on the dirt. Okay. You're gonna be fine.
It would be fine. And I mean, football players do it in Oakland when they were at the A's stadium. I'm like, it was a lot of work, and it was long nights of tearing out the infield dirt right after a baseball game to lay sod the next morning at 8 a.m. to play a soccer game the next day and tear it up right after that soccer game was over. So, I mean, the majority of the time that soccer sod was only down 48 to 72 hours, maybe, mostly 24-hour conversions that sod's down. So it was frustrating because you know how long it took to lay that sod down. You play 2 hours worth of soccer. We end up losing the game or something dumb, and then you have to tear it all up after laying it literally 36 hours ago, and you're like, what the?
It's like, why can't you just win for us, guys? We do all this work. All you got to do is win.
That's all you had to do.
Yeah. With that, how are you, like you said, you dug out the infield. What are you doing to maintain that grass in that such short span? Are you watering it at all? Are you I mean, what is the protocol sort of for managing that turf that is now where the infield skin used to be?
It's a lot of babysitting, because I mean, most of the time we're laying sod, it's 2 inches thick or 2-inch sod, because it's clay. So one, we had to make it heavy so that it wouldn't move. That's the biggest question I get asked is, when you lay it, how does it not move? I'm like, well, if you've ever lifted clay sod, you know that ain't gonna move.
They're heavy.
It's pretty dang heavy. So you got 2 inches of clay, shove it all in there, and then it's filling in the cracks, making sure it doesn't shrink, because that was one of the biggest problems is in the summer when you're playing soccer and it's July and it's 100 degrees outside, that clay wants to shrink up in the heat and that grass shrivels up, and then you start getting these ruts in between the sod, and USL does not like that. So it was a lot of filling in with sand and top dressing it and then soaking it to make sure it didn't shrink. I mean, that was your biggest defense, was just keeping water on it so that it was swollen enough that it kept itself together. But it was tough, and it's even more frustrating knowing that you're going to tear it up the next day.
And I don't remember what the experience was, but we were doing some at Tech and I did that. And I was like, I never want to do this again. And you had to do it 12 times. So I can't even think about that. How did the transition impact the infield? Because with baseball and these kids help maintain our fields, there's so much that can go into, I don't want to say messing up, but sort of creating difficulties when it comes to the infield skin, and you're going back and forth in a sense. Is there anything that you've seen that sort of developed over the season, transferring back grass back to clay, or since it was a clay sod, did it really not matter too much when it came to going back to baseball?
So a lot of the time we did put fabric down to protect the infield clay against the clay sod, just because the sod clay is very sticky, and it would, if for the amount of water we're putting on that sod to keep it swollen, you ended up creating quite a mess. So we started putting fabric down. That helped a ton. The infield itself was probably the easiest part, because once you put that you took 2 inches out of the edge, 2 inches down, 3 feet off the edge, so that when the sod laid, it crowned in the middle, but it laid flat against the outfield and the infield. And putting the edges back in was a very time consuming and very detail oriented process, because obviously those edges are extremely important in baseball. Every ball hop, every transition or roll along those edges is a missed play that is your fault. So we spent a lot of time perfecting those edges, and it really, once you got a system down and you were able to do it efficiently, it wasn't too bad. It was more, honestly, disease issues and weed issues we got from bringing in foreign sod on an undisturbed field. I mean, that field hadn't had any outside contaminants. And so when you're bringing in sod every other week from it was a local sod farm, great guys, but it was more landscape sod. And so there was dandelions in it and clover in it, and we would get disease from it. And it was stuff we had never had problems with before, because you're in your own little micro environment in the stadium, and now all of a sudden you're bringing in foreign stuff that's spreading some weeds. So that was a hurdle we didn't expect.
Yeah, not normal for a sports turf manager to have to deal with those. A dandelion infestation, that's for sure. With all of that, were you using big roll sod, or was it, again, you said from like a landscape farm, or were you guys on a pallet and you had to?
No, they were large rolls. They had sod guys come in with a special machine to help roll it out, but you'd have to take the rake and pull it into place and keep those seams tight, and making sure that you basically had to overlap every seam so that when it did eventually shrink, it set into place. And you didn't get, if they were already off and the seams weren't already tight, when it shrunk, that just made it so much worse. So
science, that's crazy.
A lot of details went into laying that soccer sod, because soccer is very picky about it.
We love soccer.
I did love them. I do miss having them, but it was tricky. What's up? Hold on. What's up?
It's all right. What was your journey through the turf industry, and how did you end up as the head groundskeeper of Reno Aces?
So actually, it's a funny story. I started with the Diamondbacks, which is our parent club, which ended up being ironic. But I was in high school. I was a junior in high school, touring colleges, trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do after graduation. And my family is from North Dakota, so we went back to see grandma and grandpa and whatever. And I toured North Dakota State and University of North Dakota, just as you do in high school, trying to figure out what you want to do for college. And I actually wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I wanted to build rockets. And I took calculus my senior year of high school, and I was like, just kidding, not doing that.
That was me, not the rockets thing, but I was like, engineer. I was like, nope, run away.
I was always good at math. I was always in advanced math. I was good at it. Like, it made sense to me. I'm very analytical. I'm very good at filling in problems. I love puzzles. I was good at that. And engineering's a lot of puzzle pieces and things, building stuff together. It's like, I love it. It's hands-on. And then that calculus thing really kind of.
Calculus is just a wall, and you just slide down.
Yeah, people
hard.
that are good at math soon learn that you're not good at math as soon as you hit calculus. So I had to find a plan B. And when I was touring NDSU, they had a turf department. And when I was touring NDSU, you got to pick 2 colleges to look into. So I was obviously met with the head of engineering in that department, and then they needed to fill another 30 minutes. So I was looking at their majors list and I was like, sports turf, that's cool. I was like, I love being outside and like, I love sports. I was always played sports growing up. I was like, this is it. So I went and heard from that head guy of that department and loved it. Sorry, I have mice in my office.
Oh.
I've had a mouse run across my desk. So like I hear noises and I'm like, is that a fucking mouse trying to run across my desk again? It freaks me out.
I'm sorry, that stinks. We have snakes for our mice at Brentsville, that's for sure.
I'd rather have mice, I guess. I'll take that. So I heard what the sports turf thing was all about, loved it, took calculus, decided not going to do that. So spring break, my senior year of high school, I was in Arizona and just went to the Diamondbacks homepage, like their basic homepage, went to the comments and questions section and just typed in the box, I'm a senior in high school. I'm looking at going into turf management. Would your groundskeeper mind sitting and talking with me about it? Because I needed confirmation to move to North Dakota to do this. I needed to hear from a groundskeeper and listen to their experiences and understand what the job really meant. Because when you're talking to a professor, he's talking data and research and stuff like that in turf, but he doesn't know the industry necessarily. So I needed confirmation from a groundskeeper and I needed to understand what I was getting myself into. And so within an hour, the Diamondbacks reached back out and was like, Grant would love to have you for 2 days, like a non-game day and a game day, and just show you what it's all about. And I was like, this is amazing. So for 2 days, I went out and worked at Chase Field before it was artificial turf, obviously. And I fell in love. I mean, I stepped out onto that warning track in right field and just looked around, and like when you're at an MLB stadium on field level, it feels massive. And you're like, this would be my office. Like then my brain started like putting pieces together and I'm like, this is where I would come into work every day. This is what I would do every day. I would get on the mower. I would paint whatever. I would pack whatever. It was all like pieces falling into place in 2 days. I just knew. And so went to North Dakota State, got my 4-year degree in turf management, triple minored in horticulture, crop science, and business administration, just because when you're taking all those plant science classes, I didn't even have to take any extra for that horticulture minor or that cropping minor because they all overlap so much. My mom made me get the business one because she was like, it's always good to have business experience. And I hated all my business classes. They were so freaking pointless. But don't listen to that, kids. Take business class. Smart.
Oh, that's great.
So then, I did a couple internships through college. They were required for credits. So I did one actually before soccer was in Reno when Eric Blanton was here. So I did my first one after my freshman year of college. I realized how long the hours are and how hard the work is real quick. Still didn't give up. Then I got an internship with the Milwaukee Brewers the following summer. And that was incredible. I loved the city of Milwaukee. I loved the Miller Park. I loved everything. We had
Absolutely
great
beautiful.
interns.
Absolutely beautiful field.
So yeah, they had 4 interns because they're big league and they can do that. And all great guys, learned so much there, learned a ton. And then my summer before my senior year, I had planned a bunch of trips and I was like, I wanted to enjoy a summer because I had worked. I mean, interns get worked like crazy and you don't have a lot of time to do a whole lot else during your summer. So I was like, I want to enjoy a summer before I graduate. And then Joe had actually come back and taken over, and Eric Blanton, the first head groundskeeper here, had recommended me, and he knew I was coming home for the summer and just said, hey, if I could borrow you just for whenever you have some time, like it'd be awesome to have some extra hands. And I'm a workaholic. So as soon as I stepped back into the field, I still enjoyed my vacations, but I sure did not enjoy as many beach days as I had originally planned because once I'm in the stadium, I don't want to leave. And then post-graduation of college, I went to Northern Arizona University and was a groundskeeper for the university. Didn't love it a ton. And then Joe actually ended up having a full-time assistant position open as I'm trying to leave. And I was like, perfect, sign me up. Packed up all my stuff and moved a few weeks later and been here ever since. And now after a crazy 2020 somewhat season, and after Joe left, I mean, that was hard for me because Joe is probably my biggest mentor and big brother and somebody I look up to a lot. And it was really tough for me to have him leave. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I can't do this without Joe. I've never done this without Joe. So I was freaking out. And then 2020 happened and we didn't play a season anyway. And then we did play a soccer season. And then I ended up as a head groundskeeper. And it all just is one big tornado. And I don't really know how it all happened. But here we are.
With the school that you attended turf program, can you speak to your experience of what the program was like, specifically like the faculty, staff, basically the overall feel of college?
I loved it. I mean, I moved from Nevada to North Dakota, which was a hard transition. I knew no one there except for grandparents and an aunt. So it wasn't like I had people my age that I was excited to room with. I had a stranger I roomed with. I didn't know anybody at the school. So it was, that first week was tough. But I called my mom crying, I think almost every day because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. And I'm from a small town in Nevada where the people I graduated kindergarten with are the same people I graduated high school with. I never had to make new friends. I didn't know how to make friends. So that was scary, but I never wanted to leave. I was upset and scared, but I never, after taking turf classes my freshman year, I knew that's what I was supposed to do. And my advisor, who was actually the guy I met that day I toured, is a super nice guy, most genuine human being, willing to go out of your way for anything and anything I needed. And the other professor, our turf department was pretty small. It was about 10 kids and 2 professors that were turf specific. And I mean, they were all great guys. Like my first turf class was actually a junior year level class. You're supposed to take it your junior year of college. And I was a freshman sitting in this classroom, like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And that professor was my advisor and he kind of got me through it. And I met all those turf guys and they were the nicest guys I've ever met. And then slowly started to meet friends, slowly started to get into the field of college, started joining clubs and doing things outside of school. And I loved it. I mean, our turf program there was small, but that's probably the best way to do it. It was very intimate, very hands-on. We were in the lab. We were able to actually do a ton of stuff because with only 10 kids, you don't have to wait for 30 people to catch up. We were cruising through stuff. We were doing real life. I mean, we were out on campus fertilizing the landscape stuff, and we were out aerating the front yard of the plant science building, and we were out changing reels on the mower, and like everything was super hands-on. So when I got to my internships, I knew more than a lot of those interns because everything we had done in class was almost what we were doing in the field. You can't completely replicate it. I can't recommend internships more because you learn about 5 times more on an internship than you do in the class. The class will teach you all the base. You need your nitrogen and your phosphorus and your potassium, and you need to do this aerating every so often, and they'll teach you the basics to start a foundation, and then that internship just builds those things to another level. It is insane how much I learned in 3 months of an internship.
That was actually my next question, but again, you just spoke about the internship and you talk about Joe, and again, Joe was the same thing to me. He was a great mentor. It was a very short time because he actually left, I think, that when I was there. But for Reno, can you talk to specific things that you think those internships provide? Because you said, and I agree with you, I've told the kids 1,000 times, and if you're not in the field and you're not getting your hands dirty, you're not knowing what the actual workplace is like, you're not really learning how much you need to learn when you're coming out of college or out of our program here at Brentsville. Can you speak to those things that you learned so much more past what the specific classrooms teach?
Yeah, the internships, I wouldn't trade for the world. I'm so happy I did them. And I mean, being an intern kind of sucks some days. You're making your hourly wage and you're getting your butt kicked and it's 100 degrees and you're exhausted after a 7-game homestand and you are questioning all of your life decisions up until that point. But I was never more prepared to go out of college than after I did an internship, especially I did both of mine at a pretty high level, at AAA level and at a MLB level. So I was thrown into the deep end and no one told you how to swim. You just figured it out type deal. And it was awesome and scary, super scary, but awesome because you get to do the work. And it sounds dumb, but like when you are the person in charge of making that mound pristine for the Milwaukee Brewers, that is your job of the day and you can't mess it up. Like you learn real quick exactly how to do it, exactly how they want it, exactly the moisture content they like. You learn everything you need to know in that one day of doing it, and then you never have to learn it again. And it's the same thing with everything. You learn the proper way to edge. You learn the proper way to pack a mound, pack a plate, proper way to stripe, proper way to fertilize, how to build an entire fertility program. That was something I had never really experienced up until that point in college. And so when I went to the Brewers, their first assistant was in charge of the interns. They gave us a sweet binder and basically laid out a ton of stuff that we had to learn before we could leave. And so he went through the entire fertility program that they have, what they spray, how much they spray, when they spray, the frequency of a granular, when they do a granular, when they do a fungi, when you do anything and everything that goes in that sprayer and or in a spreader. You had to learn and then build your own maintenance program for X, Y, and Z field that you were going to manage post-graduation or whatever it was. And that was probably the most important thing you ever learn, is having to be there every day for 12 hours a day in a stadium setting that relies on you to get the game in. So you learn real quick, something that you don't necessarily always know in a classroom.
Absolutely. So with those experiences and then as an assistant and sort of over the years, what do you think, what kind of attributes do you think that you developed over the years that brought you to this point to advance to be the head groundskeeper there in Reno? I don't know if that's the right way to word it, but if you understand, that would be good. I'm sorry.
I got you.
All right. Thank you.
I think the most important thing in this industry in turf is wanting to work, because like I've said probably 15 times already, is that the hours are long. I mean, we're here from 9 a.m. until game's over, which could be 11 p.m. It could be a 15-hour day, and it could be a 15-hour day 7 days in a row before you get a day off. And it's exhausting. A lot of it is. So I think my want to be at the ballpark every day and pushing through those long days and those long weeks and cursing a little bit and sweating a lot, you push through. And if you're willing to show up, anybody will hire you. If you're willing to come in every day on time, let's be responsible here. If you show up on time and are teachable and you want to learn and you want to grow yourself and push yourself, any job could be yours. Literally any job. I'm currently trying to find an assistant right now. And going through that hiring process, that was number one. I mean, I can teach you almost anything and everything you need to know about this job. The thing I can't teach you is the wanting to work part. That is definitely the hardest thing to fill.
Definitely. I think Jack's available if you need an assistant.
Yeah.
With when you were talking about the long hours, that's more specifically in baseball compared to other sports. And I'm not saying there's not a lot of hours in other sports, but again, you have 80 games versus football, who has 16 in total. So obviously, there are certain different ways that goes. Could you sort of explain what it's like to be a part of minor league baseball? And you've obviously spoke a little bit how it's sort of shifted again with like MLB and everything. What is it like to be a part of minor league baseball, and what is it that you enjoy so much about it?
A lot of things. Minor league baseball is where I started, so I have a soft spot for it. And with the shift to MLB, the standards are now MLB standards. So basically the product that any minor league field puts out now has to be the same quality as its major league affiliate, which I find a huge motivator for me. Is like, we have to put out an MLB quality product. I like the minor leagues a little bit more just because there's a lot of freedom and more, I don't know what the word, freedom, I guess, in
wiggle room.
Yeah, and able to enjoy the job. I feel like at MLB standards, you got a lot of pressure. You got a lot of hours and events and things happening at the stadium all of the time. And minor leagues are getting the same way too. We have plenty of our fair share of concerts and events and movie nights and stuff, but it is nice to be able to flex my hours and to have a smaller, intimate company. Instead of having 500 people that work for the Dodgers, there's 50 people that work for the Aces, and I can know every single one of them, and they can know me, and they understand what I do, and they respect what I do, instead of having the accounting lady number 400 at the Dodger Stadium trying to understand why I'm spending X, Y, and Z money on fertilizer. I can just go up to the office and be like, look, Stacy, this is why I needed the money for this. And it's a lot more easygoing. It's a lot more fun. I feel like you get to have more fun at the minor league level. The hours are long. I mean, like you said, baseball has, we host 72 games this year. My buddy who works for the Carolina Panthers, he had 8 games, home games, and he's busy.
Playing, and he's like, oh my gosh, so many games.
They practice every day at the NFL level, and they are tearing up their practice facility every day, but it's very different because game days, you're there a lot longer, and you're only doing it 8 times. So I don't feel bad for you. I'm doing it 72 times.
Get on my level.
Pretty much.
What has been your greatest difficulty when it comes to your job on day-to-day business?
Biggest difficulty here is being in the desert and trying to keep water in everything. As we all know, grass loves water and it sucks it up because there is no humidity here. It is a very dry, high mountain desert. We're also at 4,700 feet. So we're at elevation, which is a huge factor. We're closer to the sun. It dries out a lot quicker. It gets a lot hotter, and trying to make sure the grass has proper moisture as well as the skin. Keeping water in the infield here is near impossible. And it's hard when your infielders are like, it's so hard, like you can't water it more. And I'm like, I've watered it 6 times today. It's just hot. I don't know what to tell you. It's 4:00 in the afternoon in Reno in July, and it's just going to dry out. I don't care if I flood it. That's probably one of the bigger struggles. I mean, if you're in the Midwest or East Coast, you struggle the opposite thing. You're pulling tarp every day and trying to get water off the field. So everybody has their own struggles. With me, it's fighting the sun, because Nevada is actually the sunniest state. controversy to what Florida says it is. It's not.
Florida is the most rainy state. Let's put that on it, you know?
It is. Actually, Nevada gets the most sunny days of the year, and Nevada gets the least amount of rainfall of all 50 states. So we beat out Arizona and Texas because they get monsoon season in Arizona.
Monsoon season is crazy.
Yes.
I didn't know about that until I went to Arizona a couple years ago. Like, we get like 5 inches of rain in an hour. I'm like, what?
It's insane. And they come rolling in out of nowhere.
Yeah.
When I was down in Flagstaff, it happened a lot. And so we get 7 inches of annual rainfall in Reno, and we get 300 days of sun. So fighting the need to overwater is...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be crazy. So other than the water and the need to try and keep water in the infield, was there ever a major event, either during a game or maybe in a away stand, major event that was really crazy and you truly saw it after the fact as a great learning experience? Was there ever one big one that really sticks out that has helped you maybe prevent things from happening in a certain way again, or other aspects of what you do for managing the field?
I think when I interned in Milwaukee, we had a Kenny Chesney concert. That's a very large event, and I learned a lot because you have to put the flooring down, but you have to know when you put the flooring down that it can only be down for 48 hours because that field can't go without sun for that long. And you have to make sure you put a fungicide out before you put that flooring down, because all that moisture the grass is trying to put off is being trapped under that flooring for that concert. And it's just creating a ideal situation for any disease to enjoy itself and go nuts.
Disease City.
Oh yeah, real quick. It escalates real quickly.
Oh yeah.
So making sure you can't just plan for the event itself and making sure that everything at 7 p.m. is on time and good to go. You have to plan. I mean, we were putting fungi out for 2 weeks before that concert. You're planning well before to make sure that you have cut the water down to a percentage every single day so that when that time comes to lay flooring, you're prepared. Your moisture management is strong enough to get the grass through being without water for 2 days, but also to keep that disease pressure down. You also have to make sure you're prepared on that disease with the fungicide, and then making sure your staff everybody's on board so that you can get that flooring down, making sure the concert goes off without a hitch, and then it's tearing that flooring up as soon as that concert ends to make sure that the grass can start to breathe again. And then just kind of accepting and preparing for the post-concert damage, because that stage is heavy and it will kill all of the turf underneath it. So just kind of getting ready to resod, making sure you have product out to green everything back up. And then making sure you go through, we did 4 or 5 sweeps of 15 guys in a line, and we would just sweep back and forth, picking up garbage and nails from the stage and cigarette butts from the construction workers, and making sure that that concert looks like it was never here, because the team was in town and 5 days later, and they had to know that that field wasn't touched since they left.
Absolutely. We had Kenny Chesney in Pittsburgh. That's a big event. Very big event.
Concerts like that will show you how long of hours you can actually stand for.
Yeah, we had Beyonce was like double everyone else. We had them there, her too. It was crazy. I was just like, why is the stage so different? But those events are crazy. You were also sort of talking about this before. What challenges are you presented sort of on an annual scope, whether it's budgeting, expectations from the front office, dealing with that, having that relationship, making sure that they're understanding that, again, you know what you're doing and what you have out there is the best product possible with the budget they're giving you and whatnot. What are you prioritizing? What are you working with budget, labor, stuff like that? to ensure that you're getting the best product out of all the different areas that you are managing?
That's been the biggest struggle of the transition from assistant groundskeeper to head groundskeeper. It's a lot more desk work. Been in this office a lot more than I normally am.
It's a good thing you took the business classes, right?
Good thing I got that business minor, so I know what an Excel spreadsheet is, because I've been using one a lot. Planning a budget is quite the task, because they don't it's like filing your taxes. They don't necessarily tell you how much you have to spend. They just tell you to give them a number, and then they say yes or no, and you're like, okay, I need a number to work within, and I work backwards instead of working forwards and you telling me no, and then I have to go backwards. So that's been a huge struggle for me. I do prioritize my equipment, making sure that's maintenance properly yearly. That's number one, because if anybody knows, when equipment breaks and you have to stop work because equipment's broken, it is the worst.
Yes, it
Absolutely. Is. The thing I loathe more than anything is equipment breaking. So I prioritize making sure everything is oil is changed, filters are changed, blades are sharpened, tires are good, because that can halt progress really, really quickly. So that's not one of the top ones. Fertility Program is obviously top numero uno. Making sure the grass is fed and can handle the stress of 70 games and of events. And the weather here is, like I said, it's hot and it gets intense. But our nights, because we're at elevation, dip so low, we're in a weird transition zone where Bermuda just would not do well here, but Kentucky bluegrass gets a little stressed out in the summer. So like making sure everything's properly fed to handle any kind of stress. It's tough because there's a lot of products I want to use, and you kind of have to make a list, go through that list of, I need this amount of nitrogen, I need this amount of phosphorus, I need this amount of potassium, all of my micros. I basically have a list, and it's a number that I have to get to each month. This is the nitrogen level I need to apply this month. And then I pick products, I plug it in. I have a very fancy Excel spreadsheet, thanks to my fancy business administration minor, that calculates everything out for me. So all I have to do is plug in the product, and then it tells me how much nitrogen I'm putting out. And as soon as I get the highlighted, you hit the magic number, and I can move on to the next nutrient, and I plug in some products until I hit that phosphorus recommendation. And it's very time intensive, but it's worth it, because I know that I'm putting out the right product. I can then take that spreadsheet to the front office and be like, look, this is what needs to go out. This is how much it costs per acre to put it out. Here's the bill. And then currently working on building a schedule for my hopeful assistant and seasonal assistant, because they are hourly. And because of 2020, we have to watch overtime. So budgeting and making sure that everyone stays within their 40 hours a week, and making sure the overtime doesn't get out of control, because, I mean, when you're working 10, 12, 15-hour days, it can escalate real quick. And so been working on that as well. I mean, there's a lot of factors that you have to learn as a head groundskeeper that you don't have to as an assistant. And the budget is hard one to master.
What type of turf grass are you managing in Reno, and why was it selected for your ballpark?
So the sod going down in a week from today, actually, crazy enough, as my sandbox is right now, it's actually sod lay week next week.
Woot woot.
Whoop whoop is I'm tired of looking at sand. It's making me nervous. I chose the 365 SS Kentucky bluegrass. It's a more heat and drought tolerant bluegrass, which is why it's perfect for Reno. The there's a lot of research and a lot of science out there trying to improve the tough transition zone area that I live in, and a lot of central US deals with. Cold winters, harsh winters, but hot summers is a tough grass to grow. The 365 offers a lot of benefits as it loves the cold weather. So come fall or spring, when we're still getting a little bit of snow and the nights are 16 degrees and it's thriving, and then we're good. But I also chose it so that when it's 100 degrees in August, it can handle that stress. It can handle the drought. It can handle the heat, as well as it can handle the cold.
Again, that's obviously what you're looking for. What are your cultural practices that you've developed sort of with your time there in Reno, that you're focusing on? Obviously, you talked about water is a big concern, and obviously with all that, what is it that you're focusing on, and maybe what is it that you're going to probably focus even more on with the newer field or brand new field compared to, again, working with a 12-year-old stadium field?
So the biggest thing is going to be a fertility program, and it has no nutrients in that soil right now. You basically took all that organic layer out. It is fresh sand. There's a little bit from the sand underneath, but not a lot. So you're starting with like going to the beach and expecting to grow grass on it right now, because there's nothing to it. So we have to, this year, the first year is the most important year. You are spoon feeding this baby grass and giving it nutrients every 2 weeks or every week. Certain things are going down every week, certain things are going down every 2 weeks, just to ensure that that grass, that plant, has food whenever it needs it, whenever it's stressed out, whenever it is hungry and wants to grow, making sure that we have a healthy plant, so that when you're on those 6-game homestands, that grass isn't phased. And that's going to be a struggle this first year. I like to aerate at least once a month, just to let that turf breathe. Getting that fresh air into the root system is huge. It also helps activate a lot of those fertilizers that I've put underneath there. A lot of those granulars need oxygen to activate and to break down for that plant. So aerating, top dressing, that'll be something I have to figure out a little bit going into a new field. Clearly we have enough sand as it is right now, but you want to make sure that that crown is protected. And so working currently on building that aerating, top dressing plan. And then my plan in the fall, and I guess every fall from now on, will be verticutting and cleaning that thatch layer out, making sure that we don't get to the organic layer buildup that we had before. I mean, it's inevitable. That's just what time is on a field. But improving its lifespan will be dependent on clearing out a lot of that organic matter. I actually just got my new mower buckets. I'm super excited. They just came today. So I got new mower buckets to help catch clippings, which will improve a lot of that organic matter problem. And water, a lot of water.
Gotta love the water. Do you go crazy with your mowing patterns? Sorry, I'm throwing that in there with the questions we gave you. Do you enjoy doing just classic? What is your obviously it's going to be your first year. Do you have any big plans that you have for mowing patterns?
I do. I love putting in fancy mowing patterns.
I'm with you on that.
Unfortunately, when we were sharing with soccer, it was harder because you had to mow in soccer pattern one weekend and then mow it out real quick to mow in baseball, and you didn't always have time to put in a fancy one. So we did a lot of classic easy ones. Now that our soccer team is gone, I'm excited to spend some more time and do the fancy patterns. And with new bluegrass, it's going to look so freaking good. It's going to stripe up so beautifully. It's going to be that lush, dark Kentucky bluegrass stripes. Oh, my heart. I'm so excited.
Bye-bye, POA.
Yeah, no more lime green POA, no more having to spend so much money on paint to cover it up. It'll be beautiful, dark green Kentucky bluegrass striped up all pretty.
Nothing quite like it, you know. With the POA pressure, you're talking about how it sort of took over, and obviously over time you're going to have not I'm sure the extent of what it was, but are you going to develop a sod farm sort of like in the bullpen or outside the stadium to have on hand, even if it's again renovating like walk-ups or something like that? And could you explain to the kids sort of what I kind of was just asking, because I haven't actually talked to them about this kind of idea before.
So actually, Eric Blanton used to do this when I was an intern there. Our bullpens between mound and home plate were grass. And each year he would pick either the visitors or the home. So you'd pick the home one year and he would take grass out of that bullpen to use for sod. And then the next year, the visitors one, let the home one grow back in, and just kind of did that flip flop. And it was super nice because it was in that controlled environment. It wasn't foreign sod. It was everything that you were doing on the field was what was happening in the bullpen. So it was an easy transition too for that sod, because a lot of the time it's hard to bring in foreign grass and get it to adjust to your cultural practices and your environment, because we're below, most stadiums are below street level. So it's a different micro environment to the outside world. Kind of like when you are cleaning a fish tank and you have to get the new water that you're freshening up to be the same temperature as the old tank so you don't shock the fish. Same kind of concept with the grass. You don't want to shock the grass too much. So I liked having the bullpen. Joe came in, we had our bullpens redone. He took the grass out and was just warning track between mound and plate. And we had a lot of players complaining because they had nowhere to stretch or anything. So actually last spring, before the 2020 season, we put grass back in. And so this year I will now be able to have a sod farm in the bullpens.
That's awesome. I'm sure they'll appreciate the stretching area too.
Oh yeah.
You were talking about the infield and how difficult it is to maintain in the desert. But with the Dura Edge coming in, what's going to be your strategy for maintaining it? And really just, again, a lot of the kids have seen it with the work they've done on our fields, the playability aspect of that skin and how much you as the groundskeeper play a role in the overall playability of it, sort of safety for the players and true to the ball roll. What's sort of your strategy maintaining it with dragging / water / all the different aspects, and how has Dura Edge made that a little bit better for you in a sense?
I've never worked with the Dura Edge product before, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Obviously, that's why it's MLB standard, and that's why I'm getting it. But I've heard, and I know from testing and seeing the research done on the Dura Edge, it has a much better water holding capacity. So that'll help tremendously as it is. I think the biggest thing is, one, not having soccer sod on it and not getting beat up as much is going to improve the playability and the safety aspect of it. My big plan this year on the infield is in the renovation, we've put an infield watering system. So along the back arc and along the infield, it just waters the skin for dust control and soaking it pretty good, which will help a lot. We also have a roller. So we have a 2-ton roller, which is super helpful for keeping that infield tight. Because when you allow pore space in your infield, you're allowing air into that pore space to dry it out. So the tighter and firmer you have your infield from the start, the less chance you have of water escaping, because any pore space is going to be filled with water, not air. So it'll hold on to it a little bit better. And I guess the ideal infield is the cleat out theory, that when a cleat hits the infield dirt, it comes clean out. You don't have a muddy, slippery mess, and you don't have a hard surface where that cleat can't even enter the infield dirt. So it'll be some playing around with the Dura Edge for the first month. I think once March comes around and I'm able to play with it a little bit more and figure out what the ideal watering schedule will be for the infield. That'll be pretty much the whole thing, is making sure our moisture management in the infield is ideal, so that ball roll is good. You don't have it hitting concrete and bouncing straight up, and you have player safety for any sliding or whatever shenanigans that they're out there doing, making sure that when they hit the dirt, it's a soft surface. There's no injury because it's too hard or it's too wet. You don't want any ankle breaking or torn ACLs because the infield's too wet, because that is a possibility. But I don't know. There's a certain thing about baseball groundskeepers and, again, football groundskeepers who are just grass guys, or soccer ones that are just grass guys. Managing dirt is a whole science, and it is a whole nother problem that you have to deal with that football and soccer guys luck out of.
What technologies are you using on your field to better manage different aspects of managing the soil sciences and plant health?
So actually, I just picked up my new irrigation clock this morning from Mowing. It's got the HydroWise system in it. So basically you can it hooks up to your normal irrigation system. You set the times you want your irrigation to run, but it has a bunch of different accessories you can get with it. You can put in a weather station to it. You can put in a soil monitor to it. You can put in whatever. And basically I got the weather station. So if it rains in Reno, knock on wood, I hope it does not, so I don't have to pull tarp.
Walk out 5 minutes later after this.
I jinxed it. But basically being able to have a watering monitoring system in place that when it rains, or if putting a soil monitoring system, if the soil moisture gets to a certain percentage, the irrigation will shut off. So you have absolutely no chance of overwatering, which is a huge technology improvement from, I'm sure, 10 years ago when the stadium was built, wasn't an option. Being able to sense when that sand has reached its water holding capacity and not overdoing it, or knowing like it's really hot. I can see the water percentage. I know I need to turn the clock up another 10 minutes. It needs to rotate another however many times. So that's a huge technology benefit. Also, the capabilities of having it on my phone and not having to panic that I didn't turn the water on and run back to the stadium. I can be sitting on my couch like, oh, yep, the water's on, we're good. Or if the other huge thing I'm super excited about, because we had a lot of breaking of irrigation last year, I can see if there is a break. All of a sudden my flow meter or my flow is 100 gallons a minute. I'm like, well, that's not right. So I can locate it and see, this zone is putting out this much water. That is not normal. Something's broken. Being able to identify the issue, at least narrowing it down and not being like, that's weird, it's a really wet spot here today. Oh, there's a pipe broken, but I might go 2 weeks without ever knowing it. And that's scary. Stresses me out a little bit. But now that I have the technology to be able to know and narrow it down, helps relieve a lot of stress. The watering thing, it's needed, but it is a very delicate thing.
Absolutely. Sort of to go with that, you were talking about a lot of irrigation breaks and whatnot, and that stuff, it weighs on you, and with all of that, it's sort of, again, a 73 game season, like you said, it can be very, very stressful is probably the right word for it. What can you tell the kids that drives you? What keeps you going after all the hardships and everything? What is it that's you want to keep doing the job and keep moving forward? Again, since over the years and years, and now you reached the head groundskeeping job, what is it that is driving you each and every day when you go to work?
I still wake up and I'm excited to go to the ballpark every day. Like, I hate getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I am not a morning person. I am not built for mornings. That's why I went baseball and not golf, because there's no way you'd see me on a mower at 4:30 in the morning. But my office is a baseball field. That's pretty freaking cool. I don't care who you are. And every time I tell somebody that, they are extremely jealous, as they should be, because it is an indescribable feeling to walk into center field every day and that be my office. Like, yes, I have a physical office with a computer and whatnot in it, but I am not here but 5% of my day, which is not a lot of people can say that. I knew from the beginning I was not built for an office job. I did not want to be in a cubicle in front of a computer for 8 hours a day, for 40 hours a week, for 30 years of my life. That was not going to happen. I can't sit in front of this computer for more than 30 minutes and then I have to go outside and do something, because I like working with my hands. I like being dirty. Need to wash the sweatshirt super bad. I love it. I love being outside every day. I get all the vitamin D I want. That's probably why I'm a very healthy and energetic person. I eat enough dirt that I got the immune system on lock. Corona, try me, because I got all the vitamin D in my system that I need.
That's amazing.
I know the hours are long. Like, you just kind of have to accept that fact at some point, and you just know it, and that's is what it is. I've accepted it. I'm totally fine with it, because for 4 of those 12-hour days, 4 hours of that 12 hours, I'm watching baseball. I am sitting in the dugout waiting to drag, watching baseball. No one I know gets paid to do that. Besides the players, to be able to sit in the dugout and watch baseball. Not a lot of people get to do it. Even our front office, yeah, you get paid to watch it, but you don't get to watch it from field level. You don't get to come in every day and work on that field. I mean, it's pretty freaking cool. Yeah. I think it's pretty freaking cool. That's why I keep coming back. I mean,
absolutely.
Name a better office.
I can't. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
So, with everything, and again, congratulations on the head groundskeeper job. It's this year, right? This one happened.
Yes.
That's awesome. What's your overall goal? Was this sort of the overall goal, or is there a hope to make a jump to the next level? Is there maybe a different area you like to conquer, maybe a different sport or golf? Well, maybe not golf, like you just said. You don't wake up that early. I'm with you on that. My 6 a.m. wake up call is early enough, So, is there anything that you think could be the next step for you, or what your overall goal is when you entered the sports surf industry?
I mean, when I entered, I wanted to be an MLB groundskeeper. That's obviously the goal, is to try to get to that major league level and put out a major league product and go to a major league field every day as my job. I think that is the coolest thing in the world, and that's why I started it. I mean, going to Chase Field for those 2 days and just taking in the stadium itself, it was something I could see myself doing. That was probably my first goal. I definitely thought it would take me a lot longer to be a head groundskeeper, especially at the AAA level. I was like, I'm 25 and I'm at the AAA level as a head groundskeeper, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Don't tell the front office that, but
they had to see something, right? They had to see something.
I know. They don't need to see this part. They don't need to get this far. But I mean, I'm happy to be here. Trust me, I am. I definitely expected it to take longer. So I don't really know. I hate when people are like, what do you want to do in 5 years? I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. So I don't freaking know.
I made sure I kept the 5 years out of the question. I just went overall,
I appreciate that. I wouldn't have answered it anyway. I would have said what I said. I don't know what I'm having for breakfast.
I don't like the question either. I'm like, 5 years from now, I mean, what's going on?
5 years is a long time. What I was doing at 20, I definitely didn't think I'd be head groundskeeper 5 years later. So
absolutely.
I mean, anything can happen. My goal right now is to win Field of the Year. I got brand new field coming in, my first year as head groundskeeper, only female in AAA, youngest head groundskeeper in AAA. I got a lot to prove, and I am coming for Field of the Year. I am determined more than anything else this year. It is finally my chance. Got rid of soccer, got a new field. I got goals.
That's awesome. Our kids were awarded that a couple years back. We were all sort of shocked, honestly. We just kind of were doing it. It was a great opportunity to sort of take the application and create a lesson out of it, in a sense, like everything, like, with the nutrient management and all that. But they were all really excited. So I'm sure you'll be there in no time at all, just like with the head groundskeeping job. So
those are some heavy bragging rights. Getting a Field of the Year award.
We don't like to use it as bragging rights, but that's
an accomplishment that is
absolutely
worth showing off. Get that plaque up here. I got room right here. It's gonna go right there, and for the world to see, for everybody.
We'll have another meeting and make sure we just focus on the plaque.
Yeah, it'll just be that the whole Zoom. I'll just over it, and then you can just look at that one.
Sounds good. I'm sure you'll be there at no time at all.
That's you guys want it. Shoot, if you guys want it before me, dang, I'm honored now. I'm with royalty.
I wouldn't say that.
Not worthy. I haven't won Field of the Year yet. I don't know if I deserve.
No, that's not at all. Not at all. I was actually on Twitter a couple days ago, and I saw this video. I think it was by the Aces. It's fine. The head groundskeeper of the Mariners came down and visited. What was that like? And if you could speak to, again, sort of the industry as a whole, again, like the whole situation of him coming down to see what you're going through, because he's actually going to go through it next year. And I think it said with the specific turf you're going to be putting in. So what is that like? And could you sort of speak to the camaraderie of the industry as a whole? Again, like asking to come down to see you during the middle of the process and just being able to see what could possibly be good for them and sort of pick at what they want to focus on based on their visit.
I mean, more than anybody, as the turf industry is an unbeatable group of people, guys and girls. I mean, when I started this field renovation process, not knowing what the heck I was doing and needing all the advice, and I called every minor league groundskeeper from single A to triple A. I called almost every head groundskeeper that I knew just to get some advice, to get when the last time they did a renovation, what they would have done differently, what they would implement now if they could do one tomorrow. I mean, I could call anybody and everyone, and they were more than willing to help me out and give me any advice. And that speaks volumes to the turf industry, to be able to set aside a half hour of your day to help another turf manager succeed. I mean, unfortunately, like, there's not a lot of other industries. You could go to an architect firm and try to talk with other architects, and no one's going to tell them their secrets because that's what they get paid to do. But groundskeepers are the same way, and they're willing to share anything to help another groundskeeper out. That's how tight-knit we are. And it's a small industry considering how many fields that there are in the US or the world. I mean, it's not as many as buildings as there are for architects. So, I mean, everyone kind of knows everyone in some capacity, thanks to social media like Twitter. Like, I've never met half the people I follow on Twitter, but I know I could DM them with a question any day of the week and they'd happily help me out, which is incredible. So Tim, he knew the sod guy who came down here. I had never met Tim before, but Joe obviously had worked with Tim in Seattle, and Joe has nothing but good things to say about Tim. So I was excited to meet him. And he brought his assistant, who was the old head groundskeeper for Tacoma, who was a AAA team, who did the soccer thing too. So it was super great to have them come down, meet them, make that connection, be able to tell them what we're doing, and then know that they're going to bring that back to Seattle and be like, look, Reno did it this way. I think it's awesome that they did this, this, and this. I might change this, this, and this because it works for us better in this stadium. But like, having them want to come to Reno and come look at my ballpark was the biggest compliment. And knowing that they're wanting to do something similar. I'm a trendsetter. I don't know if you know this, but they wanted to do it because I'm doing it.
Obviously. Yeah. That's awesome.
But I mean, I'm in a group message with almost all the AAA groundskeepers right now on the West Coast. So I can go to Sacramento tomorrow if I had a question, or he came here last summer to help fix my sprayer because I could not get that thing to build pressure to save my life. He came out, spent a day out here. I mean, we got beers, we hung out, we could enjoy each other's company and catch up, but also help each other out. And I can call up Souk up in Salt Lake City, or the El Paso guy, or anybody is willing to help each other, which is, you can't say that a lot about other industries. I mean, turf guys are one of the nicest groups. I mean, there's always bad apples, but for the most part, I would say we got a good, humble, for the most part, group of ladies and gents in the turf industry that would help anybody out.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure if I'm right in what I'm saying here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You're the only female to hold your position in minor league baseball. Is that correct?
There is one other woman in minor league. So I'm one of two in the minor league system. There is one lady in single A for the Orioles.
Okay.
I am the only one in AAA.
AAA. Gotcha. Okay.
And one of four in all of baseball, because Nicole Sherry and Heather Nabozny in Detroit.
Yep.
Then me and the lady in Florida, I think it is.
I think there's single A's in Florida. I think with the whole restructuring, I think all the single A is back in the spring training sites. I could be wrong, but
that speaks a lot of volume. There's 120 minor league teams and 32 teams. And there's only 4 women.
Exactly. So sort of with that, you're such an inspiration, and we talked to Nicole too as well. You guys are such an inspiration to kids, especially in our program, who are actually looking towards turf and maybe looking at it as a possibility in their future careers. Can you sort of speak to how important it is to you and to how really incredible it is to be that figure in such a male-dominant industry, to say, hey, I'm a badass, pardon my French for all my parents out there listening to this, but kicking ass and taking names, in this industry. What does that mean to you? And could you sort of speak to all of that in a sense for the kids?
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel any different. I mean, some days,
and that's totally fine. Exactly. And that's what I'm curious about,
I mean, day to day in the ballpark with Joe and the other assistant and me, I never felt different. Joe pushed me just as hard as he did my male counterpart. I had to do all the heavy lifting the other guy did. It maybe took me more trips, but I did the exact same amount of turfist bags that he did. I packed just as many mounds as he did. I've done everything I can to level the playing field, literally and figuratively, to make sure that I am treated exactly the same as a male assistant would have been, or a male head groundskeeper would be. I don't like feeling different. I try to just keep my head down and grind, because my work says everything you need to know about me. I think I try to make it that way. I try to make sure that it's never a question that, oh, she's a girl, can she carry that much? Oh, she's a girl, can she lift that much? Oh, is she able to keep up? I make sure that that's not even a freaking question. It is not across anybody's mind that I'm here for every reason that a male head groundskeeper is. I wish more women saw that and knew that it was an option. Unfortunately, I never saw it. I didn't see Nicole in her position until I started reaching college and was able to start understanding the industry and whatnot. But I'm hoping through this, girls are coming to Aces games and knowing that that's an option, knowing that just because I've only ever seen a male head groundskeeper hold the hose pre-game water doesn't mean that it's not an option, because it is. Every job is open to anybody. You can be the COO, you can be a CRO, you can be the president, you can be a GM of any team, of any league, of anywhere, if you want it bad enough. If you put the work in and you study and you know what you're talking about and you're confident in what you talk about and you put out that product that you were talking about, no one will know any different if it was a male or a female that did it. That's my goal.
Absolutely. And incredible.
Putting out something that if you didn't know I was the head groundskeeper and you found out, you're like, oh, I didn't know that it was a girl. That's the whole point.
That's amazing. And we actually have a graduate. She's at Virginia Tech right now, looking to start a career in turf. So we're seeing a lot of females in our program taking a liking to it. So that's awesome.
Feel free, ladies listening, watching, whatever, reach out. Like, we are more than happy to answer any DM, any email, anything, any questions you have, or mails. If you have a question about working in AAA, I'll answer it. If you have a question about internships, I'll answer it. If you have a question, if it's a woman, if you have a question or concerns about the physical limitations of the job, or unfortunately the male ego of the job, ask. I mean, Nicole probably told you the same thing. We're all happy to answer any questions you have and guide you and get you into this world, because we want you here. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of it's a lot harder when you're at the Turf Managers Conference and there's 5,000 men in a conference center and there's 20 women. Like, it's a hard feeling to digest sometimes. It sucks. I'm going to be honest. It sucks some days. But I know most of those guys, of that 5,000 men, I would say 95% of them would hire me or would reach out to me with questions or see me as a colleague and an equal. And so it's never been a huge issue. There are a couple older gentlemen that make it an issue, but we don't need them anyway.
We'll just forget about that. Yeah, push them aside.
But if whoever has questions should ask. I mean, I went to the Diamondbacks website and just asked a random freaking question on a random site on a random comments and questions page, not thinking I would get a response, and it changed my life. So please ask questions. Please step out of the comfort zone and try it.
Absolutely. And that's amazing. So thank you for that. We do appreciate that. We sort of wrap it up on these two questions usually. If there was one thing that you could tell yourself that through your career, again, you're only 25, so I just turned 26, so we're about the same age. If you could tell yourself when you started to make it not easier, but maybe something you would like to know before hitting it head on, mine would be, again, fixing an irrigation break, but that was just that was me seeing it for the first time and just going, ah. But what would you tell yourself going forward to sort of, again, not make it easier, just something you would have liked to know going into it?
I wish I could tell my freshman year college self that was scared freshman and didn't know anybody. And as I move forward, that it gets easier, that you were meant to do this, and that it'll start clicking. The further you get into a turf program at a university, the more you fall in love with it, because I feel like you guys are lucky. I wish I had this in high school. Shoot, I would have been on a much quicker, happier path to join turf because I would have had a better understanding of it. But in college, as I took every turf class, every soil science class, everything started to fall into place for me. I just wish I could have told high school me and college me that you're meant to do this, and that keep pushing. You're going to end up where you're supposed to be. Because there's a couple times there I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this. Keep pushing, keep going. You're going to love it.
Absolutely. That's great. And really the last one, it's not really turf based in the question. But if there's any words of advice, any words of wisdom for the kids, again, they're high school students looking to either enter the world right at graduation or go to college for anything really, what would you say? Just what is the best advice you can give them moving forward?
Shoot. Keep your eye on the ball. It's a saying my dad used to tell me. I mean, it's as simple as literally make sure you don't get hit in the face when you go to a baseball game, like pay attention. But it kind of, I have a keychain on my backpack that my parents gave me when I graduated college. It says, keep your eye on the ball. And it's just kind of been a mantra for everything. Like stay focused, pay attention, set a goal, keep your eye on the ball, keep moving forward, keep doing what you're doing. All of the things, just keep your eye on the ball. If you have a goal, keep your eye on it. If you need to be paying attention more, pay attention more, or you're going to get hit in the face because foul pole to foul pole netting isn't a thing in every stadium. So pay attention.
Absolutely incredible. It was been a fantastic time. We really appreciate you taking the time. What do you guys say?
Thank you.
No problem. I'm happy to be here.
I gotta go see
what kind of chaos my construction crew got into in the last hour and a half.
Well, we appreciate it for sure.